Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Scars, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and yes, by the photo you can tell I'm introducing a new segment, but I'm going to have a little bit of preamble, and that is to say, thank you so much. I've seen that there's a couple of more new subscribers, so I appreciate you for dedicating your time with me. But I did just want to put the disclaimer that I am first and foremost a booktube channel, so I discuss all things books, and I do tend to have more of a how should I say, more of a focus on like social injustices. That's just the way it panned out. Those are the books I gravitate towards. So just putting it out there. Um, I am covering Interview the Vampire because I am also, I contain multitudes. I am also a fan of the really the adaptation by AMC has been like really incredible. So just know that like I'll put out reactions or whatever. It's more like a way for us all to chat, to be honest, because I do mine live. And when the show comes on, I think I'm gonna do what I did last year, which is to have like it might be a pop up, but it'll be like a, I guess you could say like a live reaction when the episodes are on. Um, and I'll do my reviews or like top 5 moments type of thing. And also I have a readathon that I'm doing in conjunction that I've been doing since like last year. And that's like every 2 months. So starting in January of last year, I covered Louis, Claudia, Madeline, Daniel Malloy. This year I'm covering Lestat, Armand, Gabrielle, and Akasha at the end of the year. So just keep that in mind. That's like every 2 months, and then have a 1 month break, which leads me to this segment today. This is going to be a quarterly segment that's going on this year only. And let me bring up my notes so I don't mess up. My cat's meowing outside again. So it's going to be called Right Now. Okay, so join me on a quarterly basis with a special guest as we discuss Ngũgĩ Thiong'o for memoirs, because what he experienced in his lifetime is not just the past, but reflects our present. And to work towards a better future requires us to understand the present and the past. So let's just keep that in mind when we're reading the author's four memoirs. So the author was he was a Kenyan author and an academic. He actually taught right here in my state of California, in Southern California, at the Irvine College. And he's been described as East Africa's leading novelist and is an important figure in modern African literature, but also so many other places around the world have celebrated the author. I wasn't really familiar with him until I walked into a bookstore and picked up a book randomly. So he was born January 5th, 1938, in Kamirithu, Kenya, and he died in May 28th of last year. So he was 87 years old, and he passed away in Buford, Georgia, which I was not aware. I thought he had, towards the end of his life, I knew he had been in Kenya for a little bit, but I guess he came back, and I wasn't aware until I looked up this information. So let's go over the four memoirs. I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to use Goodreads. I do have the link. I'm so sorry, my cats are like not having it today. And you know what? It has commercials, but I'm gonna let it go. Once the Time of War is the first book. Where do I have this? I do have this. I'm sorry, I'm just like hearing my cat meow away. Okay, so all right, so the author was born in 1938 in rural Kenya to a father whose 4 wives bore him more than a score of children. Then man who would become one of Africa's leading writers was the fifth child of the third wife. Even as World War II affected the lives of Africans, used British colonial rule in particularly unexpected ways, affected their lives, I should say. Ngũgĩ spent his childhood as very much the apple of his mother's eye before attending school to slake what was then considered a bizarre thirst for learning. So I'm just trying to keep it brief here so I don't get too lengthy in my conversations about each book, but I'm going to make sure that I keep the link to this in the details. So book 2 is In the House of the Interpreter, and it says world-renowned Kenyan novelist, poet, playwright, and literary critic Thiong'o gives us the second volume of his memoir in the wake of his critically acclaimed Dreams in the Time of War. In the House of the Interpreter richly can I read? In the House of the Interpreter richly and poignantly evokes the author's life and times at boarding school, the first secondary educational institution in British-ruled Kenya in the 1950s against the backdrop of the tumultuous Mau Mau uprising for independence and Kenyan sovereignty. And the third book is Birth of a Dream of Weaver, which I still don't have a copy of. I have to figure out how to get a copy. Let's see. It charts the very beginning of the writer's creative output. In this wonderful memoir, Thiong'o recounts the 4 years he spent in Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. Threshold years where he found his voice as a playwright, journalist, and novelist, just as Uganda, Kenya, Congo, and other countries were in the final throes of their independent struggle. And lastly is Wrestling with the Devil, a prison memoir. So the author wrote this powerful prison memoir. Begins half an hour before his release on December 12, 1978. A year earlier, he recalls armed police arrived at his home and took him to Kenya's Kamirithu maximum security prison. There, Ngũgĩ lives in a block alongside other political prisoners, but he refuses to give in to the humiliation. He decides to write a novel in secret on toilet paper. It is a book that will become his classic, Devil on the Cross, which I'll be talking about that in just a minute. If I could get my cat to stop meowing right outside. So yes, I have like 3 of the books. I'm still missing like the third one. I have 1, 2, and the 4th one. And I picked these books up from Sideshow Books, which is a secondhand bookstore near me. I reached out to Tony, the owner, and he's been keeping an eye on the books from this author because he's also familiar with the author. And so he DMs me on Instagram and is like, the books are here. So I have several other books also that I picked up because Tony's made them available to me. So go check out that bookstore. All right. So it's a little bit about each of the books. And I'm going to go ahead and just tell you a little bit about like a handful of books that I've read by the author. And then again, I just like picked up a book one day at a bookstore because that's kind of my, I think, where is it? Oh yeah, Devil on the Cross. I picked up Devil on the Cross from Barnes & Noble. I didn't know anything about this author, but I don't know, it just sounded interesting when I read the back of it. And this is the book that the author is most known for and really like kicked off his career. And I don't know, I think that there's something, it feels a bit malleable the way that he writes the structure of this book. And so I would highly recommend it. And the fact that also this is a book that he wrote on toilet paper, because the author has said in interviews that it was quite rough. It was like perfect for writing. And so even though that he was like confined as like a punishment, he would not let that deter him. So definitely worth picking up. It's also A Grain of Wheat, and this is post-rebellion, Mau Mau Rebellion, which is going to be mentioned in one of his books. And this, he brings in a Mogo leader that is similar to Jomo Kenyatta. This is per my notes on the back, so it's been a while. This is also, it felt like the aftermath of of a rebellion and how people are affected and almost like this chess, not chess, a checker like moves in a way with an emotional current beneath it. So there's the river between. I really love this one. This one and Devil on the Cross are like my favorite so far. The river between is really about it really is about colonization, focusing on the Gikuyu people and how Christianity infiltrates their lives, and how there's these I want to say there's like these two tribes uh, uh, on each side of the river, and one has been indoctrinated into Christianity. On the other side of the river, they have not, or they're pushing up against it and discussing those ideologies and how they buck up against each other. It's a really great read. And I'm going to stop saying favorites, but here we are. Personal favorite as far as like nonfiction is Decolonizing the Mind. It's such a tiny, quick read. Is this even 100 pages? It's like 104 pages. It's not a lot of pages, but it really does break down the politics of language in African literature. But wherever you are at in the world, you could read it, and you could like pluck out information that really applies to where you are in the world and how colonization, I guess, takes a stronghold, and the way that language is weaponized in a way. And it's important to learn those things, because how do you break away from it if you don't know how to identify it? And I have two other books I have not read, but Tony grabbed them for me at his bookstore, and that is Matigari. It's a novel, but I'm really not familiar with it. This is translated literature, and that is important to keep in mind, because prior to Thiong'o being in prison, he had written in English. After that experience, he decided to write in his like native tongue, and then translate his work to, like, let's say English or whatever. Yeah, English, because he thought it was really important that his work was made accessible, among other reasons. But to his own people, but it's kind of like the shorthand of it. Lastly, I have a book of short stories, and I don't know, I haven't read it yet, but I wasn't even aware they had a short stories forms into a novelization. So I'm happy to have this on my shelf. So I have plenty of a stack related to this author. And so I hope that you come along and read with us. And from there, let's see. I named this segment right now, and I really wanted to do this as a celebration of the author, but I wanted to like add some context that I'm reading about this author, his life. I think it's important how his work has impacted me in the present. And so as I'm reading each novel and I learn like very specifically what was going on in his life, I'm going to, I haven't figured out this part, but I'm either in short form, I'm going to release as a video, or I'm going to use a shorts option on YouTube. And I just want to highlight activists right now on different parts of the world, not just like the state that I'm in or the nation that I'm in, that are doing work right now that actually relates to what the author experienced in the past, because the past isn't just the past, it's very much ingrained in the present. You know, what happens in the past creates like echoes, and we're still feeling the consequences of that. And I just don't want that to be lost. So I'm definitely gonna look for different activists. And if you happen to know certain activists that you want me to highlight, I will definitely, feel free to leave a comment below and have me look into them. And so I'll try to highlight them within the month. If not, it might be like towards the end of the month, just because I'll be reading um, Thiong'o's book the entire month, and I'm trying to see how that shakes out. But that's definitely something I'm interested in. There's other couple of people like in I could say it nationwide, and actually specifically in the state of California, I'm already thinking of. Um, but I just want to broaden who I highlight. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you know anyone, please leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to look into them. Guest host. I'm going to introduce you to my guest host. I did want to reach out to people that either were somehow familiar with Thiong'o or have read his work. I wish I could say that I could find people that have like read his work across the board, but it hasn't been easy for me to find people that have read his work. Basically, is what I'm saying. That's been an interesting little bit of a journey. So, with that said, who am I highlighting? All right, so my first guest this month that I haven't nailed down a date, but everyone's confirmed that they want to be on is Chronicles of Noria. Here we go. Where am I? All right, Chronicles of Noria has a channel, and they cover all the things. Their analysis is incredible. Like, she could talk about like an aspect of a character and an episode in a way, and wax poetic in a way that I never could. So they're covering Bridgerton. They're also covering How I Met Your Mother in a way that I'm telling you, it's like academic level analysis. Noria is just so good at that. But they've also, have they covered any of the Vampire? I don't remember. But yeah, amongst all the conversations we've had, oh yeah, Noria has covered Heated Rivalry. That's very important. I can't forget that. But and Last Holiday, which is a personal favorite of mine for rom-coms. But she also has a video saying this is not a rom-com. So check that out. What I'm getting at is that we had a conversation about Thiong'o. I forgot how it came up, but then I realized that Noria had read like one book, I forgot which book, by Thiong'o. So I finally felt like finally I met someone that's like aware of his existence. And so I reached out. I know I don't think they're really big on doing like YouTube live stuff. So I just feel incredibly grateful that they agreed. I think it's just both our love for this particular author that is really bringing us together. So I feel very, just feeling like a lot of gratitude that Noria is willing to do this with me. And so I'm just going to count my blessing there and not push it. So that we're going to read the first book together. And then the second book, also, I forgot if I have this in order. I forgot who's first, because I have my list. Oh yeah, okay. In the House of the Interpreter, I'm reading with Kiana from Sexy Lady. Let me share their screen. And for me, this is a good pairing because he is someone that likes memoirs. So this is right in their wheelhouse. Biographies, fiction, nonfiction. And it's a Pepsi fiend, they write. But really, I read with them a nonfiction historical book last year. And it was for one of my Interview the Vampire inspired readathons. I forgot which one. It might have been Madeline, but I'm already forgetting. And I really just appreciated their insights and conversation. And so reading a memoir with them is like right. It's just like the right pairing for us. So I appreciate that they're willing to do that. And that's going to be like sometime in June. And then in September, my next guest is going to be Nkechi from Library of Wonder. So they did confirm that they're gonna do this with me, but keep in mind right now they're really focused on sprints in case you're interested in their channel. They usually do like vlogs and book reviews, definitely like book wrap ups, but they're also incredibly busy now with being in school. So we'll see. I'll check back in as I get closer to September if they're still like available. I know school can be like really overwhelming, and so I want to work with their schedule. So we're so far on track for September, but we'll see. We'll give them time. And just so you know, everyone that's mentioned here, I am going to have them. I guess I'll tag them below so they can hop onto their channel pretty easily. And oh yeah, so with Nkechi, I'm reading Birth of a Dreamweaver. I just don't have a copy of the book yet, so that's the only bummer. But I'll get there. And last but not least, I am reading Wrestling with the Devil, the prison memoir with Margaret Pennard, who is a historical author extraordinaire. And they have just wrapped up their Black Author Tube readathon that they have every year. Um, Margaret really also focuses on independent authors, not only, but that's definitely a push. And they are definitely like an eclectic reader as far as like genre, as far as like she also focuses on a diversity of author and story. And so keep that in mind when you hop onto their channel. They are an author, but they also are such a huge lover of books. And so although they're on the author tube side of it, I'd say like maybe 70% of what Margaret does is actually more focused on the books tube side of things. And let me see, on the 2nd of March, she is going to be wrapping up a conclusion with our Black Author Tube readathon. So it's never too late if you want to like hop on and learn about that segment. There's plenty of authors that you could read all year long that she's covered, which is just she's just like a wealth of knowledge. She's definitely like created like a hub of community in a way that really is inspiring, and I constantly feel very just thankful that I'm somewhere in Margaret's orbit. So let's keep that in mind. I'm trying to think about anything else to say before I end this. I think we're good. I think I covered everything. Again, just keep in mind if there's any activists that you would like me to highlight during this time, let me know. I'll try to keep my eyes peeled for that. So just remember that like history, it's not behind you. It's knocking on your door right now. And I will see you in the next slide. Bye.